know it's a weekday, so it's not always the most feasible time, but at least you've managed to come. Thank you. There is a very important episode from our Sastras known as Srimad Bhagavatam, and you must have heard of this at some point. There was a powerful elephant known as Gajendra, and he was the king of the elephants. And Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that because he was king, he was naturally very powerful. He was also in a situation where he commanded great respect from his generals, from his wives, and from his children. Whenever he was on land, he would rush to the waters of the lake to drink, and there he would sport with his family. And because he was a king, he was very powerful. No animals on the land were powerful enough to stop him. So Bhagavatam says he would literally smash his way through the forest and reach the banks of the river, and then he would go into the banks and he would bathe himself and he would play sporting activities with the other elephants. One day he did the same thing, and he entered into the waters. But because the elephants and Gajendra made so much of disturbance and caused so much of difficulty, one of the great aquatic animals in the river, the crocodile, which is very powerful and which its natural habitat in many ways was the water. It would come on land, but it was very comfortable in the water. And so the crocodile decided that enough was enough. So much of disturbance is there. And therefore the crocodile caught hold of one of the feet of Gajendra. When his foot was caught, the king thought it probably got snagged into something. And so he decided, let me try very hard to pull out. As he tried pulling his leg out, the more he tried, the more the jaws of the crocodile tightened. You know, the crocodile has the greatest bite force in animals, amongst animals, right? Land and in water. The greatest power, and it's very difficult to actually get past a crocodile. So what happened was, the crocodile kept holding on to King Gajendra, and Gajendra kept trying to come out of it. As he tried and tried and tried, all his efforts failed. Initially he was very confident that this is a position that appears to be dangerous, but I will be able to come out of it because I'm the king. So he tried. When he couldn't, he still felt confident because he had his great generals with him, and his generals were very powerful. So they all lined up and they pulled him. But the crocodile was very strong because the crocodile was very, very powerful in water, and Gajendra was not powerful in water. He was more powerful on land. But the elephants, with all their strength, could not dislodge him. And so the generals gave up. His children came over and they tried to pull Gajendra. But if the generals could not, what could the children do? His wives were worried about him, and they came and they looked out for him and they tried. And then everyone tried. But Gajendra was not able to be moved. By now, Gajendra's view of the danger that he first sensed initially had changed. In the beginning, he was very confident of his own ability to surpass the danger. Then he was very confident of his own strength to surpass the danger. And then after a while, he was confident of other people whom he depended, and he thought they would be able to save him from the danger. But despite all their efforts to pull him out, none of them could do it. So then something else that Gajendra did not expect happened. The generals turned to Gajendra and said, Gajendra, you are king and we have respected you. But today we realize that you cannot be our king because you will be stuck here and we cannot free you, and we need a king. Therefore, either one of us will be king or we'll go away and we'll find a king. And so the generals left. Gajendra was a little bit discouraged because they were his people. But he thought, never mind, my family is here. Now his wives turned to him and said, Gajendra, we love you very much, but this is an untenable position. You can't be in here forever. We need to take care of the children. We need to move on with life. And therefore I think if you cannot come out, we will move on and we'll find someone who can give us shelter. And now Gajendra became very upset because he felt this was the purpose for which I had been there, to give protection and shelter. And once I cannot give it, people leave me. People have no value for me. And then his children came up to him and they said that, Father, we love you very much. But what can we do now? Mothers are going to go. And between you and mothers, I think we'll follow mothers because you are stuck. You can't do anything. You can't move. So we will leave you. And so at that point of time, Gajendra started thinking. And in Bhagavatam, it is very nicely given. There's a beautiful shloka in Bhagavatam. I want to chant it because these vibrations are very transcendental. Ittam Gajendra sayadapa sankatam pranasya dehi vivasya yadrichayaha aparayan atma vimokshane chiram dadyau imaham buddhim atatpyabadyata. What this means actually is, Gajendra the elephant, when he saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile and that the crocodile did not move, he then began to realize that the crocodile's holding him now is not just because of the fact that the crocodile is powerful, and that this whole situation that was unfolding before him was not just unfolding by accident. He saw it as the will of providence. He saw that there must be something that is coming out of this that I should understand. And he felt one thing that's very important. He felt circumstantially and existentially helpless. This is a very important word that they use here. The word in Sanskrit is known as sankatam. Sankatam means to be in a very dangerous position. And what was he in danger of? Pranasya. His pran, his life was in danger. Dehi, his body was in danger. And then the word circumstantial is very nice. Circumstantial in Sanskrit means vivashaha. Vivashaha means something that we think we can control, but very often is outside our control. Sometimes you may feel that you're in a position where you can control many things, but at the very most you may be able to take charge of who you are as a person. But everything else around you is very often a variable. And when things are variables and you depend on them, by nature they will vary. And your dependence on them will move as they vary. Therefore, there is a difference, Bhagavatam says, between that which you take shelter of, which is constant, and that which you take shelter of, which is variable. So circumstantially helpless is a situation which is considered in Shastras as a situation of danger. And the greatest danger, Bhagavatam tells us, is that you don't know you are in danger. It is very dangerous not to know that you are in danger. Sometimes, if you want to ask questions and you don't know what questions you have to ask, that's more dangerous than actually not even figuring out what is happening. If you don't know what you're doing is right or what you're doing is wrong, then there is obviously an issue. Here, Gajendra was in a similar situation. Bhagavatam tells us that he was a powerful elephant and he was very confident of the people around him, or rather the animals around him, his family, his friends, his property, right, his acquisitions. But in a matter of moments, because he was caught and he could not do anything about it, he became circumstantially helpless. So Bhagavatam tells us a very important thing, that at every stage of our life, there is always what we call padam padam yat vipadam natesham. Padam padam yat vipadam natesham. So padam padam means every step, and vipadam means actually danger. So Bhagavatam tells us that every step that we have in this world, if we are not careful, can produce a situation of anxiety, can produce a situation of difficulty, can produce a situation of even danger. And sometimes we don't see it coming. Like Gajendra walked into the lake and he thought everything was fine, nothing to worry. And that's how sometimes life is. So Gajendra's story is very simple. He teaches us one thing, that very often it is very natural for us to depend on many things and many people around us for our happiness. Gajendra felt that he could draw his happiness from the people around him. But he didn't realize that because he himself was not the source of permanent happiness, he could not expect that others will also be a source of permanent happiness. Because actually in this material world, there is no such thing as permanence. The very nature of this world is that whatever comes must pass. Now we came together 15 minutes ago, half an hour ago. It's 7:35, right? And now as I talk, 7:36 will come. And in a few moments, the program will end. Time will pass. It has to pass. So actually, in Bhagavatam, this crocodile represents the network of material illusion that we live in. Thinking that this world is temporary and that whatever we have is permanent. No, thinking that this world is permanent and whatever we have is also permanent. But Bhagavad Gita tells us that this world's nature is ashashvatam. Ashashvatam means it is always going to be temporary. And you don't need to be a genius to understand that. Everyone understands that, right? There will be a time, right, when things will change in our lives, right? In a few days, he's going to go and study overseas, isn't he? Right? So life is changing. And then suddenly you will feel, hey, your house is very empty, one person less. Then his turn will come and he will go. And then you two will be staring at each other and wondering what's happening. And at that point of time, if you have had no anchor, which is permanent, then you will start feeling that slowly, one by one, the anchors that you thought were permanent are leaving you, or they're becoming dislodged. So that's why Bhagavatam requests us to consider, where are we putting this anchor in? Gajendra put his anchor with his generals, with his strength, with his family, but in the end they could not stay. So what did he do then? Gajendra came to a very good realization. He became extremely afraid that he would be killed by the crocodile. So the verse ends by saying, he consequently thought for a long time, and he finally reached this decision. And now Gajendra says something very nice in the next verse. He says, the other elephants who were my friends and my relatives, they could not rescue me from danger. What to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything for me. It is the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile. And now I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all shelters, the shelter of all shelters. In Bhagavatam, that is known as Param Parayanam. Param Parayanam means one who is the source of all shelters. So Gajendra, even though he had a very difficult situation where he was in, how he reacted to it is very important for us. First of all, he did not become discouraged. When we are faced with impending difficulties, very often our esteem, our view, our outlook, everything becomes very bleak. And very often we become very discouraged. But Gajendra understood that there is a reason why I'm going through a difficulty. And so instead of seeing it as a liability, he turned it into an asset. He thought, now that I've reached rock bottom, where else can I go? The only way now is up, because I've reached the bottom of the bottom. Everything has left me. I thought I was defined by my majesty, by my strength, by my power, by my wealth, by my wives, my children, my general. But today, I'm not defined by any of these. So that's the question we have to ask ourselves. As devotees, who are we defined by? What defines our own strength? He saw his strength from within. And from within his heart, he realized that I am actually a product of something much bigger. I'm a product of creation. Creation is a product of the Creator. And therefore he decided, let me not waste my time now. Why to take shelter of everyone else? They are also going to die. 2 fishes were in a net. And one fish told the other fish, don't worry, I'll get you out. The other fish turned to this fish and said, "You yourself are stuck in the net. How are you going to get me out? You can't. If you are able to come out of it, then you can show me how." There was an old wise man in a village, and one mother brought her son to him, because the boy was addicted to sweets. And he told the wise man, "Help my son cure his addiction to sweets." And the wise man said, "Give me 2 weeks and bring your son back, and then I will help him." So 2 weeks later, he brings the boy back, leaves the boy. She brings the boy back, leaves the boy there. 2 weeks after that, she comes back. And the boy, lo and behold, is free of addiction to sweets. So she's very grateful to the old wise man. And she says, "I'm very thankful and very happy because you've cured him of addiction to sweets. But I have a question. Why did you take 2 weeks before you could see my son? Were you busy? Did you have a busy schedule? Did you have to prepare yourself? What did you do? I'm curious." And the old wise man said, "When you came to me and asked me to cure your boy of sweets, I told myself I could do it, but I needed 2 weeks to cure myself of the addiction to sweets. If I could find the cure, then I can transmit that experience to someone else." So until you are able to experience, it is very difficult to share it with others. Which is why sometimes when we speak, we are speaking theoretically. But if you sense that someone is speaking because they have experienced it, that experience will penetrate your heart. Because what we speak today is not material in nature. What we speak today is actually spiritual in nature. So we must learn from Gajendra. We will always be faced with dangers. And these dangers can come in many forms. And everybody, right, for everyone, the danger is never the same. And for each one, our threshold to receive the danger is different. Sometimes for a little child, right, sitting for PSLE, for example, in Singapore is traumatizing, right? I remember feeling traumatized. Oh my God, it's a big exam. And my parents kept telling them, "I'm nothing, wait till you come to O-levels." But what they didn't realize was, at that time, I had no concept of O-levels. The only mountain I had to climb was PSLE. And it was a big mountain. Therefore, for me, the danger was real. For me, it was real. When a child sees something and it finds it is in a situation of difficulty, it is real. But the reality is relative in this world. It is relative. But it doesn't mean it is illusory. Right? Srila Prabhupada, who commented on Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, if I were to go up to you and slap you across your face, you can't turn around and say, "Oh, that was an illusion, I never felt the slap." It is a slap. You felt it. We have to accept it. So just saying that this world is Maya, it is illusory, is not enough. Because the challenges we face are real. Real. Therefore, Bhagavatam doesn't tell us to be in denial of the dangers. Bhagavatam tells us to accept that the nature of the world is that at every step there could be a danger. Every step there could be a moment of anxiety, a moment of difficulty. The real question is, who do you want to turn to when you face that danger? If you want to turn to something which is impermanent, then you will also be caught in the impermanence. But if you turn to something which is permanent, the supreme permanence, Krishna, then you will find that the shelter of the lotus feet is like a boat. In Bhagavatam it is stated so nicely, Samasritaye padapallava plavam what is it? Samasritaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavaram budir vatsapadam parampadam padam padam vipadyat vipadam natesham. It's a beautiful shloka. Brahmaji sang this to Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says, Samasritaye padapallava plavam. Plavam in Sanskrit means boat. So he's saying that the lotus feet of the Lord are like the beautiful boat. It is a boat that can allow us to cross this material ocean of nescience, the material ocean of anxiety. And he compares this boat, right, and the ocean to something very nice. He says that if you become connected to that which is the shelter of all shelters and not to that which is temporary, then your crossing over difficulties and dangers will be as if you are crossing over the hoof print of a calf which bears water in autumn rains. You know, sometimes when you see autumn rains, the rains come, and then if you see calves walking, they leave a light imprint, and then there's some water. For us to cross it is not difficult at all. It is very easy to cross it. In the same way, if we are connected to transcendence, if we're connected to Krishna, and how do we connect? Very simple, by what we did, chanting. We may not even understand the significance of chanting, but if we really immerse ourselves in the transcendental sound, we will find that it brings so much peace. It takes us away from envy, pride, anger, greed, just by chanting of the holy name. And that becomes the boat on which we can cross this difficult ocean. So the greatest danger, actually, Bhagavatam tells us, is not the dangers of the material world. The greatest danger is when we forget who we really are. Forgetfulness of our true nature, that we are innately spiritual. We are definitely having a material body, but there is something innately spiritual to us. The more we connect to that, the more we will become peaceful. That is the greatest danger. The danger that we forget that there is always joy in all these things that are material, but ultimately they must leave. And when they leave, our joy leaves with them. It leaves with them too. So remember Gajendra, and let's chant Krishna's names. Shall we? Let's chant Krishna's names.